Yeah, welcome to this webinar, dear FiCS members and stakeholders. My name is Blaise Gonda, and together with my colleagues from the Finance in Common Secretariat, Max, Sarah, and Ines, we are very pleased to welcome you to the second webinar that we organize on our technical assistance work stream. The last one was held in the summer of 2024, and it presented FiCS's study on the technical assistance landscape for public development banks. This time, we wanted to gather you to update you on the latest features of our work stream on technical assistance and to discuss together how this can help, how your work also can help to further close the technical assistance gap for PDBs. We will have 4 moments in this discussion today of about 1 hour. First, we'll have a word from our close partner, Alex Michi, from the Global Capacity Building Coalition, to share his insights from the broader perspective of the current technical assistance challenges for sustainable finance. Then I will present you our new technical assistance hub on the website of Finance in Common, with our 4 pillars and the new technical assistance catalog. That is a tool made to help you, PDBs, and members of the larger sustainable finance ecosystem to access readily available TA resources. Third, we will give you the opportunity to share experiences on technical assistance to illustrate both demand and supply for technical assistance for public development banks. And we'll have colleagues from the Water Finance Coalition, from TCX, from EFAD, AFD, and NDB. And finally, we'll have an open Q&A session phase where you will have the possibility to ask your questions directly in the dedicated chat box. So without further ado, I will give the floor to Alex Michi, CEO of GCBC. Alex, over to you.
Hello, thank you so much. Can you hear me okay, Max?
Yes, we can.
Okay, fantastic. It's really an honor to speak to you all today, and thank you to our Finance Comment for inviting us. So as Max mentioned, my name is Mickey.
Although maybe if you can put the mic a bit closer, there are some.
Okay. Is that better? Is that better?
Slightly, yeah.
Okay, I'll try and speak loudly then. So thank you for having me today. It's really an honor to speak to so many of you, and thank you to our partner, the Finance for hosting us and inviting us. I think I just got a message that people are still struggling to hear me. Can you hear me okay? No.
Yeah, the sound is a bit breaking, yeah.
Max, shall I try and join from another device and maybe I'll speak later? Because that's
now if you hold it with your hand like this, we can hear you a bit louder, and it's quite okay.
Okay. Well, thank you for having me today. Yeah, as Max mentioned, I'm the leader of the Global Capacity Building Coalition, which is chaired by Mary Shapiro, who is founded by Finance in Common, along with multilateral development banks, UN agencies, NGOs at COP28. And we focus on ensuring capacity building, helping to unlock sustainable finance around the world, particularly in emerging markets. My microphone. Sorry, I think we're struggling with your live storm app. Can you hear me again?
Yes, we can hear you. It's sometimes disconnecting, but...
Okay, let me try one more time. So needless to say, we're in a challenging moment for climate finance. Traditional concessional flows are tightening, while country and market demand signals are shifting. Around the world, as we'll find out from the latest version of the IH-led report and the Baku to Berlin roadmap, we face
Sorry, Alex. Just maybe a suggestion. I can move on to the next speaker while you try to find another mic or another device.
Sure.
Is it okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry about that. So I maybe while Alex is fixing the problem, I can show you, tell you a bit about what we have been doing at FiCS on technical assistance and capacity building. So we started in 2023, where under India's G20 presidency, with the Technical Assistance Action Plan, there was a call to align resources with the needs of public development banks. And we commissioned a survey last year that revealed a stark reality, basically that national development banks in emerging markets and developing economies struggle to identify the technical assistance programs available to them. And this finding compelled us to act. That's why we developed a new tool, the Technical Assistance Hub, which I'm going to show you right now. So if you go to our web page, let me share my screen. So it's right here. I guess you can see it now. So if you go to our webpage, financeincommon.org, you have a thumbnail on technical assistance here. And if you click on it, you'll see that we have developed four areas of our technical assistance hub. We have first here technical assistance offering to empower PDBs with the capacity to achieve alignment with the Paris Agreement and the SDGs. We have the regional associations of DFIs that provide capacity building. We have sector-specific technical assistance, and also the FiCS Lab Incubator, which has a call for applications until December of this year for the second round, and the IDFC facility. We have then the knowledge part of the hub with basically the survey that I mentioned. You can access it as well. We have our international advocacy, which I mentioned shortly, with the work aligned with the G20, India's G20 call for technical assistance. And finally, we have the technical assistance catalog that I will show you now. So it's here. You click on TA catalog, and you will access
Blaise, just testing. Can you hear me okay? We're trying to get another solution for Alex to speak.
Yes.
You can hear me well?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Either Alex going to come back here. I don't know if you might want just to finish this.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'll be quick. So what we wanted to show you is here. You can think of the technical assistance catalog as a marketplace for technical assistance for PDBs, where we try to match TA demand with TA supply. And you will see here that, so if you are a public development bank and you are looking for a TA offering, you can already see the more than 30 TA resources available for you. If you have a specific demand, you can click on TA demand and fill in the form. You can also, of course, directly contact the FiCS Secretariat, and we'll be happy to talk with you and to tell you what TA can best suit your needs. And if you, on the supply side, you have this form where if you have a TA offering that you can fill in as a TA provider with general information, contact details, and filling in as well the type of technical assistance that you provide. And And then we process it, we discuss with you, and it is then displayed on the TA catalog as the programs that you just see. Maybe a final word to say that we have disentangled the TA offering by type of service, from project preparation to sector support and up to implementation or institutional strengthening. This is based on the classification that was established in the 2024 study. And you can also provide, specify the TA that you are providing by SDGs, by the type of provider, and whether it is linked or not to a loan. So this tool is free, it is open access, and it is designed to evolve. And we would like to grow the number of programs that are listed here at COP30. So we definitely encourage you to register your programs or your needs, and we'd be delighted to guide you through the process. And we also welcome, of course, any feedback that you may have to help us improve access to technical assistance and capacity building. So with this, I'll finish here on presenting the TA catalog and give the microphone back to Alex. Alex, over to you.
Thank you, Max, and sorry for that technical glitch. I have to say that the TA platform you built looked fantastic, and it would be really helpful for the broader if it was well used and well populated. So congratulations to the Finance in Common staff on building that. I think it's really helpful tool. So yeah, let me start again. I'll repeat myself because it sounds like not everyone was able to hear. But it's a real honor to speak to you today. Thank you for inviting me, and thank you for listening. I'm the CEO of the Global Capacity Building Coalition, and we were founded at COP28 by Finance in Common, along with the MDBs, UN agencies, some of the climate finance NGOs, private finance organizations like GFANZ and PRI. And we are chaired by Mary Shapiro, who obviously leads a lot of climate finance initiatives for Mike Bloomberg. To set a bit of context on capacity building, we're obviously in a challenging moment for climate finance globally. Traditional concessional finance flows are tightening, as many of you know and experience every day, while country and market demand signals are shifting fairly rapidly in both positive and sometimes negative directions. But underlying that is we face a widening gap between ambition and action in sustainable finance and climate investment and needs. As the IH-LAG report shows, I'm sure that's going to be updated with the Baku to Belém roadmap coming out at COP. We've been supporting that. And that gap, that financing gap between our development and climate objectives and the finance available to fund them is widening. So the needs that we calculate in the latest round of work is we need to increase climate finance nearly fourfold to around about 2.5 trillion per year by 2030. And that's while official development assistance is declining and concessional funding is tightening. So therefore, the role of capacity building to A, mobilize new sources of capital, and B, do more with the fewer concessional capital providers and amount of concessional capital that we have has never been greater. And that is perhaps why we've seen the demands for capacity building and the support for capacity building increase through these challenging times. At the GCBC, we continue to see demand from across the ecosystem for more capacity building on how to better manage, access, and deploy those scarce sources of climate finance resources. As an example, one of our members, NDC Partnership, they show that capacity building in finance and investment is the area with the highest area of support that countries themselves are asking for, which I know many of you will be involved in trying to close that gap. Significantly, over 40% of those requests remain unmet. So even just on capacity building itself, climate finance, there's a large gap that together we can try and close. But the challenge remains how to mobilize more finance. And with this goal in mind, it's increasingly important to strengthen the capabilities of local financial institutions, local governments, professionals who are working across the ecosystem to mobilize those new sources of finance that perhaps historically have not invested in infrastructure projects in emerging markets, but are theoretically willing, but they themselves need to grow their muscles, their institutional muscles on how they do that. So there's capacity building needed on both sides of the ledger. So without increasing that capacity, climate finance simply won't grow at the flow or the scale or the speed that is needed. So that's why the work of the coalition and many of the organizations in the room today is so important. As I mentioned, we launched at COP28 with the core purpose to strengthen the capabilities that make sustainable investment possible, particularly in emerging markets and developing economies, but not exclusively. We bring together those organizations that are most active in this space. So the UN agencies, the MDBs, philanthropies, NGOs, universities, and private finance organizations to improve the coordination and support innovation and partnership in capacity building. We're really proud that Finance in Common is one of our founding members and continues to be a close partner in driving this work forward. Importantly, we created GCBC to unlock climate finance and accelerate the climate transition in emerging markets, specifically through capacity building. But our work aims to be demand driven. So we found, as we were establishing it, that often capacity building programs are kind of determined primarily by supply, by the designers and the funders of capacity building initiatives. But we seek to try and better elevate the voice of demand. What are countries, what are financial institutions, what are governments actually asking for? What are national public development banks asking for as being useful, as being necessary, and trying to shape supply so that it's more responsive? We also have a core mission, as we said at the start, to make it more accessible. So often capacity building resources, programs, people don't know how to access them, where they are, even that they're happening. So trying to create a storefront, a one-stop shop for people to access those tools. We're trying to make it more collaborative so that you don't have 4 conflicting technical assistance or capacity building programs running in the same geography at the same time. And instead, those providers team up and share their learnings, their resources, so it's A, less confusing, and B, more efficient with the scarce resources we have. And we're really trying to elevate the responsiveness to feedback through time so that we learn and the capacity building gets better through time. So in the 2 years that we've been active, since we launched at COP28 in the UAE, we made significant progress. So our digital platform, that one-stop shop I mentioned, now has over 400 resources from our members on sustainable finance capacity building. We're improving the functionality of that. So the search, integrating AI and natural language search functionality and how you find those resources and how those resources are linked. We've grown to over 100 members, spanning global institutions like the UN and the World Bank, but down to local providers, so local business schools, local universities, local trade associations, which we think is really important to build those links between the global and the local organizations, which I know is something that Finance in Common does as well. And importantly, private finance actors themselves. So whether that's the Kenyan Banking Association or whether that's PRI, we think it's really important to bridge the gap between the capacity building providers and the private finance that it's often trying to access. We also launched an accelerator program in Singapore at Ecosperity in June, and in New York a few weeks ago we announced the inaugural cohort of winners. So 3 high impact, innovative capacity building initiatives that we're looking to support them to scale and replicate their success. So climate compatible growth, Africa adaptation initiative, and Transformer, 3 really innovative organizations. And we're developing a catalytic capital repository, which Finance in Common have been very helpful with, to make it easier for financial institutions to find and secure sources of catalytic climate finance, ultimately with the goal of scaling blended finance and facilitating more collaboration between the public, the multilateral, and the private finance systems. We've seen through a lot of this work the impact that working with public development banks on driving finance can have to support national climate and development priorities. So by way of example, in Brazil, our colleagues from GFANS have been working very closely with the private sector convener, as the private sector convener and strategy advisor to Brazil's country platform, the Brazilian Investment Platform. The BIP is wholly owned and led by the Brazilian government, with specifically the Ministries of Finance, Environment, Energy and Industry, and its secretariat sits with the National Development Bank, BNDES. The objective of the BIP is to mobilize international private capital into transition-aligned projects, as well as to better utilize the public capital in a way that's truly catalytic, so that it taps into those sources of private finance, including global private finance, that we need to access if we're going to close the finance gap globally. So GFANZ works with the secretariats led by BNDES to ensure that projects and the focus of the BIP are truly aligned with the transition projects, which are owned by the 4 ministries. This includes regular engagement at the technical level and the leadership level at every ministry to ensure that the work plan of the BIP maintains the strategic focus to help those ministries achieve those goals outlined in their transition plan. Because ultimately, we all know that the success of transition plans depends on whether the projects within them get financed. Another benefit of the BIP structure is having the Ministry of Finance at the heart of its governance, as the ministry typically decides how international public capital is used, so it can be plugged into the BIP and its pipeline of projects. Further, many of the domestic pools of capital are channeled through BNDES, so having the Public Development Bank at the heart allows for the connectivity, helps streamline processes across the bank and the platform. It also allows that cross-ministerial collaboration, because BNDES is the Public Development Bank for all ministries, which is really crucial, because that kind of honest broker within government can help unlock collaboration, which sometimes you get competitiveness or turf wars between different line ministries about their own transition plan, their development plan. So having the Public Development Bank at the heart of that has been really helpful in allowing that one whole government approach to the country platform. So I can honestly say from working on the BIP that public development banks can play a really transformative role in this work, and we're hoping that we can replicate the learning, some of the successes from that in other countries. I mean, I will just say one more advantage of having the Public Development Bank at the heart of the country platform is you have people who work in finance practitioners working on the country platform, and you have an existing pipeline of projects, and that kind of learned muscle memory from the Public Development Bank on how to get and how to mobilize private finance. So it's been a really successful partnership. I also want to point out the important work that Finance in Common is doing in this space with their Financial Innovation Lab, working with a number of PDBs and you guys on structuring novel risk distribution instruments, which is going to be really important work going forward. And we're looking forward to continue to collaborate on our own work on the importance and deployment of catalytic capital, of guarantees with the likes of CPI, the World Bank, and others. So I think this is really fruitful ground for collaboration. One other thing I wanted to point out was at COP30, we will launch our first thought leadership paper on the global capacity building landscape, which we've co-authored with many of our members like Finance in Common. This paper makes a case for capacity building, highlighting what's in the space, outlining a series of recommendations that the capacity building ecosystem can take to improve the efficiency of all of our work. The paper draws on extensive consultations and interviews with key groups across the ecosystem. So we spoke with many of the groups that make up our member base. Sorry, my headphones keep cutting out, including the funders, so organizations like philanthropies, MDBs, climate funds.
Alex, just one last minute before we move on. Sure,
that allocate resources, grants, providers, those who provide the capacity building, and end users, the actual recipients of financial institutions, governments, and together their perspectives provide a clear picture of what is working. So I won't go into it all today, but there's a series of recommendations and I'm happy to send them around. But fundamentally, capacity building works best when it's locally delivered, often with global partners, but the local ecosystem is the best place to tailor the capacity building to the local context. And I think public development banks can play an important role there and ensures sustainability once the program has ended. So finally, I'll just say thank you for having me today. We're thinking very actively at the moment on how the Capacity Building Coalition can extend our offering to support things like the BIP across the world, working closely with national development banks, Finance in Common, MDBs, because I think there's a lot of impact that can be had. And I think collaboration in this space and learning from what works can be really helpful. So thank you for listening to me today. Happy to follow up with anyone if anything I have said has been interesting. So please do, I'll put my email in the chat. So please do follow up if that would be interesting, either on the capacity building paper or on the work on country platforms. So thanks, Max. Back to you.
Thank you. Sorry, but actually, so I am Blaise, but it can be confusing because I'm using Max's computer, so I appear as Max. But anyway, thank you very much, Alex, and thank you for insisting on putting the spotlight on country platform and national investment plans in line with climate and transition. We've reached the first half of our webinar. In the second half hour, I would like to split it into two parts, so two last parts. The first one would be to shed light on some experiences of technical assistance that worked, is working, or has worked. With 5 partners who volunteered and who were eager to present their initiative. So I will list them and then give the floor to them. So the first one is the Water Finance Coalition. Daniel De Paula will present it, and it is a coalition that was launched during one of the FiCS summits. Then we'll have Ingrid Hagen from TCX to introduce us on the project of Local Currency Academy that TCX is a strong partner of FiCS is currently considering. Then we will have Max von Bonsdorf, who will tell us more about what IFAD is doing with the Agri-PDB coalition, also part of the FiCS movement. We'll have Ines Labidi then from Agence Française de Développement, AFD, introducing us to TA offerings from AFD that can cater to PDB's needs. And finally, we'll have Matlale Serobe from NDB to also shed light on technical assistance provided by the new development bank. So Daniel, if you can maybe tell us about what the Water Finance Coalition is doing in, say, 3-4 minutes.
Okay.
Over to you.
Thank you. I will try to be short, and I will be happy to answer some questions if needed at the end. So in few words, the Water Finance Coalition comes out from the FiCS, and it is within the FiCS umbrella. It has been created in 2021, and all started with a first global study, a first hypothesis, which was that public development banks have a unique role to play in the water sector globally. So this study also stressed that many PDBs still do not invest in water. It can be due to the lack of internal expertise, to their mandate also. So from this first analysis, the Water Finance Coalition got created and developed some technical assistance program over the last couple of years. So the main objective was to support public development banks in developing a roadmap for increasing their involvement in the water sector. So this was the generic objective. Can you hear me? I see a message in the chat saying that perhaps there is an issue with my sound.
Yes, I can hear you at least.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yes.
well, then I will continue.
Yeah.
Thank you. So that was the generic objective, creating roadmaps for an increased participation in the water sector from some PDBs. But each technical assistance to each PDBs has a special focus according to the needs. So I will present a few of them. We had some PDBs, for example, BRD in Rwanda and DB in Ethiopia, which did not invest in water at all before. Or BRD, for instance, had some indirect investment for their housing portfolio, but DB did not at all. And both of them wanted to develop a specific water portfolio. So we tried to work with them on that. Another completely different example was BNB, Banco do Nordeste in Brazil, which had a significant involvement in the water sector already. Between 2021 and 2023, they invested more than $1 billion in water. So in this case, the objective was more to expand this current portfolio and to see on which subsectors they had still some opportunities to extend. So it was more on the business sector and the rural microfinance sector that we worked. And another objective with them was to facilitate a cross-department discussion within the bank on the topic of water. So that was really useful. And perhaps a last example was the Vietnamese Development Bank, which has been channeling some ODA flows in the water sector in Vietnam for many years. But the objective of the technical assistance was to establish the potential for a revolving fund to continue channeling such funds to the water sector in Vietnam, to see which specific segments of the sector could be interested in doing so, and what role could VDB play in that fund. So to conclude, I think 3 main messages can be drawn from these experiences. The first one is that there is a first critical step in every experience, that is to get a detailed understanding on the sector's financial landscape, to really see for the PDB where is the real gap and real opportunities too. And second, we have to address every time the bankability gap, because in the water sector, many potential borrowers are either completely unaware that some PDBs can deploy such finance, or others are the ones do not have the skills to present some projects to the PDBs. And a third message, which will be that technical assistance is not just for PDB, but it should also include a broader national policy environment, because in some cases, the problem wasn't on the bank's capacity, but more on the extent to which it can engage depending on the regulations and priorities set by the national authorities. So this leads me to my last point, which is that the Water Finance Coalition I described has now involved very recently to the Public Development Banks for Water initiative, which is an initiative led by the OECD with support from IFD and FiCS still. And this new structure with the OECD will allow us to make evolve also our TA offer. So we'll have 1 per year PDB that will be selected within a broader context of the OECD National Water Policy Dialogue, which means that the future upcoming TA opportunities for the banks will be embedded into a broader policy discussion, which is specifically needed to address the enabling environment challenge I described before. So that's for the work of the Water Finance Coalition, and now for the Public Development Banks for Water initiative.
Thank you very much, Daniel. And so if you're interested in diversifying your portfolio with water and sanitation investments, please don't hesitate to reach out to Daniel or to us, FiCS Secretariat. We would be very happy to support you. Now over to Ingrid Hagen as Director of the CE Office at TCX. Could you please explain the new facility you're launching and how it can help improve PDBs in investment?
Absolutely, Blaise, and thank you to FiCS, indeed a very strong partner to TCX. And thanks to Blaise and thanks to Max for allowing me to briefly speak today. You mentioned, Blaise, that this is about initiatives that are having success, but we're speaking future tense right now. So this is about what TCX is preparing to do, and that will be launched in the first quarter of 2026. Again, my name is Ingrid Hagen, and I'm the head of strategy, strategic programs, and funding at TCX. For those who do not know TCX, TCX takes the responsibility to protect local borrowers from the impacts of FX risk on development and climate finance, which is often extended 80% plus in hard currency, of course. Over the years, we've increasingly had exposure, of course, to public sector, to PDBs, to DMOs, as well as private sector borrowers, and all that reduction of FX risk in the system is absolutely essential to improving the efficiency of development assistance, because of course, as soon as you introduce significant depreciation into transactions and to loan agreements and debt servicing, you're reducing the actual availability of that fund for development purposes. And that is a significant challenge to the efficiency of development funding, but also to the attractiveness when we're talking about mobilizing the private sector to invest, in particular in climate finance in developing markets. In our exposure over the years, and also stemming from a previous FiCS survey that was done of PDBs, we of course noticed that there are a number of different challenges when it comes to PDB participation in local currency hedging instruments. And a number of those conclusions come to the fact that there are a lack of political will, a lack of awareness, and a lack of knowledge and skills. So we are really looking at, as echoed by a number of different global documents, whether produced by the IMF or the UN GISD report or G20 roadmaps, we're looking at establishing the Local Currency Academy. It is an initiative under EFSD Plus with the European Commission and KfW support. And this is indeed going to be starting up officially in January 2026. And Blaise, I'm not going to use any more slides, so I'm just going to leave it at this. Just wanted to point out that when we do go to indeed the role of how PDBs understand and how DMO sovereigns and local borrowers understand the implications of foreign exchange risk, there is a lack of understanding of debt sustainability analysis, a lack of understanding as to how you actually, what mitigation tools are available. In many markets, in particular lower income markets, the onshore market is a particular challenge given the fact that they are underdeveloped in terms of FX risk mitigation tools and instruments. So the technical assistance program is not just about providing understanding as to how to mitigate the in an indexed foreign exchange risk from an offshore market like TCX specializes in, but it's about really supporting the borrower, whether it be a PDB, a local borrower, private sector, or a sovereign DMO, to understand how to use all the FX instruments available to it. And we will actually extend supporting the development of FX instruments on an onshore market as part of the TA program as well. So looking at the hub that you presented, I could say it's going to be a success when a lot of different borrowers, again, the range of them, have the capacity to be able to provide the onshore and offshore mitigation that's required. And I was looking at the hub, and we look very much forward to in the future to conceivably being one of the offerings that's made available through your platform. It's definitely complementary to what is there. This is quite technical, it's quite financial, but we think that it certainly will support PDBs as well as other local borrowers to better be able to mitigate the FX risk, which in the end is going to mean they will have more funding available to do the development purpose for what it is actually the loans are targeted. This is just a short slide about detail on what each market might look like and what will be the services that we are building already in order to be able to provide. One more point I would like to make, which is the last slide, which is fine, this is not going to be a TCX initiative. It is called the Local Currency Academy. It is independently branded, and it's going to be a partnership with a number of different organizations that offer knowledge and bits and pieces that are relevant to this particular development. And you can imagine that, for example, the IMF, World Bank, it's going to be local providers, FrontClear, another provider. So we're going to work together to be able to deliver the services that are most relevant to the local borrowers. So please watch out on Q1.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ingrid. That was very insightful. And I'd also like to share that we are collaborating with TCX FiCS, and TCX will collaborate together to address foreign exchange risks in vulnerable countries through a blended finance facility. It's an initiative that we are working on that will enable up to $2 billion in local currency lending, including 500 million for PDBs across 30 countries. And maybe I can also say that at the end, after this webinar, we can share, we can collect and share all the documentation that you want to share with the participants, and this will be one of them. Now turning to Max van Bonsdorf, Chief of Global and Multilateral Engagement at IFAD. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, and thank you very much for inviting IFAD to this very important event. Said my name is Max van Bonsdorf, and I will sort of use my minutes in telling a few examples about how we collaborate with PDBs, and especially on the point of TA and capacity building services. Next slide, please. So first, I will focus on two examples. One first is how we collaborate in our core programs with PDBs, and how TA and and capacity service are integrated to them. And secondly, I will talk about an initiative called AgriBD Platform, which IFAD is hosting and in partnership with AFD, and which I saw that was also figured there when you were showing, Blaise, the TA Hub. So, but firstly, IFAD, for those of you who don't know, so IFAD is an IFI, International Financial Institution, which provides mainly sort of financing to governments to implement their program. And we operated in the space of agriculture and rural development finance, mostly provided loans. So the first sort of example I would like to highlight is that in big part of our country programs and the project we operate with governments is about rural finance. And in many of these country programs, here in the slide you see two examples, one in Kenya and one in Ethiopia. In our rural finance programs, we collaborate, or part of the sort of implementing organizations are national development banks. And pretty much always when we have these kind of programs, there is also, in addition to the actual financing provided, can be a credit line or some other things, there's also a capacity building and technical assistance component involved. So the financing and technical assistance go hand in hand. Like here, for instance, in the Kenya program example, we worked with Agricultural Finance Corporation and designing a risk-sharing facility that helped to mobilize MSMEs, but sort of the program also involved technical assistance to AFC in terms of designing this risk-sharing facility. Or in the second example here, so in Ethiopia, where we provided sort of credit lines sort of to the Development Bank of Ethiopia, it's also involved the program capacity building services to MFIs and rural savings and credit cooperatives. So the first point I wanted to say, in our operations, we have quite a few rural finance programs in which NDBs are often partners, and these programs always involve, in addition to the actual financing, also capacity building services. Next slide, please. Then the second example, I said, so IFAD hosts the AgriPDB platform, and which is an initiative which has been sort of born out of the FiCS process in 2021, and is sort of is an initiative which has sort of gained a lot of traction, has around 140 PDBs as members, and also a few regional organizations and networks. Next slide, please. And the AgriPDB platform is really, you could say, a kind of capacity building and TA service providing platform, which, among other things, has the objectives to identify the needs of its members and facilitate learning and knowledge sharing opportunities among PDBs and capacity building and dialogue. Next slide, please. And the AgriPD platform really has this, as you can see in the slides, three kind of pillars. It's a learning and knowledge management, it's capacity building and innovation, and advocacy and awareness raising. So among other things, sort of through these pillars, sort of the PDB platform is for instance, does peer-to-peer knowledge exchange and trade and TA activities. It disseminates knowledge products, organizes trainings, and also builds sort of partnerships and dialogue among PDB platforms, sort of member PDBs. And I'm saying sort of in terms of the space of agriculture and rural development finance, AgriPDB platform has a really important role in terms of building capacity and facilitating TA and peer-to-peer dialogue and knowledge sharing. Final slide, please. And so just wanted to say that sort of if you want more sort of information about sort of the AgriPDB platform, please visit the AgriPDB platform website. There's more information and knowledge about events and activities going on. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Max, and congratulations on the excellent work done so far. We're very pleased to have been collaborating with you for the past 5 years. And as I said, we cannot delve into too much detail in 4 minutes, but we'll share all the material with the participants after the webinar. So we'll make reference to the website of the AgriPDB platform. Now let's hear from Ines Labidi from the Financial Systems Division, which it's hosted by AFD. With a facility dedicated to improving PDBs access to capital markets. Ines, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Blaise. It's a pleasure to be with you and to showcase a bit of how AFD works with public banks on technical assistance. And good afternoon to everyone. My name is Ines Labidi. I work within the Financial System Division of the AFD Group, which brings together AFD and its subsidiaries, Proparco and Expertise France, with AFD focused on the public sector. I think we can go to the next slide. So we have activity with all actors involved in the financial system. They may be regulators, ministries of finance, commercial banks, and of course, public development banks. And our team provide a diversified range of financial products from concessional to non-concessional loans, equity, guarantees, green and social bonds. We operate in more than 70 countries, and we have over 200 million technical assistance ongoing technical assistance to support our project. So about our strategy and the link with technical assistance, among the 3 pillars of our strategy, our activity focuses on the sustainable transition and transformation of the financial system in line with the SDGs and the Paris Agreement. We pursue 2 main objectives. The first one is really to support the transformation of the financial actors' practices in order to promote sustainable development, for example, by integrating more climate finance, climate adaptation, gender equality, or biodiversity into bank strategies. And the second objective is to mobilize long-term resources in order to redirect financial flows towards sustainable investment and to finance more sustainability. And because our project aims to generate a transformational impact and go beyond business as usual, combining a financial offer to a technical assistance is really essential. And we have 2 objectives with the technical assistance. The first one is really to use the technical assistance to enable the banks to evolve their practices and to mainstream the transition into their markets. And the second one, the technical assistance is used to ensure that the banks have all the means and the tools necessary to successfully implement our project on time and in line with the agreed objectives. So we can go to the next slide about our technical assistance offer. We have several programs, and each technical assistance is really designed per project and tailored to the ambition of the project, the strategy of the banks, and the objective jointly agreed with AFD during the project appraisal. I will briefly talk about 2 facilities, the climate finance and the impact bonds. So for the climate finance facility, it's the core objective is really to integrate climate consideration into the bank strategies and operation. These are some examples of the activities that can be financed and implemented by a technical assistance. It goes from developing a climate strategy in line with the international best practices and also with the national priorities of the countries to supporting the bank in its accreditation process to entities like the GCF. And when the technical assistance comes into support to a credit line designed to refinance project with climate benefits, the technical assistance will also include a component to help the bank in identifying a pipe of eligible project to ensure that the credit line is disbursed on time. And for the impact bonds facility, this facility is designed to support the public banks in issuing green, social, and SDGs bonds. And in this case, the scope of the activity will systematically include the portfolio analysis to identify eligible project, the gap analysis against the procedures of the bank, the drafting of the bond issuance framework, and the support in the certification process. So far, this facility has been used to help 4 banks, and the Agence Française de Développement has subscribed to the emission of 3 of these banks. So you will be able to find more information about these facilities as well as the facility about other facility we have for public development banks on the technical assistance catalog published by the FiCS. And to conclude, I would say that technical assistance is really essential in our activity because it helps us to go beyond just providing funding, but to really and to truly transforming the financial systems. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ines. Thank you. And as Ines mentioned, you can have access to the TA programs developed by AFD on the TA catalog. We are running a bit out of time, so just to say that if you have some 10 more minutes, 15 more minutes you can stay with us for the Q&A. Before starting the Q&A, I also wanted to give the floor finally to Matlale Serobe from the New Development Bank with their experience, to share their experience on technical assistance. Matlale, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Blaise. Okay, so as a good day to everyone, and thank you for the opportunity. As Blaise has mentioned, my name is Matlale Serobe. I work for the New Development Bank based in Johannesburg, South Africa. So today I'm going to cover 3 things. So the first one is really provide an overview of the NDB's technical assistance offering. The second one is around lessons learned. So I previously worked at 2 PDBs within South Africa. So I'd just like to share some lessons learned based on my experiences. And this will be particularly useful for the PDBs that are new in their development journey. And then lastly, I'd like to share a case study of how a PDB actually assisted the South African government to establish a new market and unlock private sector capital. So starting with the NDBs, just for those that don't know, so the New Development Bank was established in 2015 by the BRICS member countries. Since then, our membership has expanded to include Bangladesh, Egypt, UAE, and Algeria. Our mandate broadly is to mobilize resources for infrastructure and sustainable development within the NDB member states that I've just mentioned. And then pertaining to the PPF, as you can see, we're a relatively new bank. And then we established our project preparation facility or fund rather in 2017. And the purpose of the project preparation fund is really to provide support to NDB member states in everything relating to driving efficiency, innovation, regional and interregional cooperation and best practice. So as you can see, I'm not going to go through everything because I'm mindful of time, but really our project prep facility is used to support feasibility studies, sectorial overviews, and also capacity building initiatives within our member states. So we provide this support by providing up to 400,000 USD grant to provide any support for any of the activities and support technical assistance objectives that we would have defined with the clients. Next slide, please. Okay, so in terms of some of the lessons learned, so at country level, one of the biggest challenges is when you're trying to change the regulations to create an enabling environment for investment. You do require that full buy-in from both the government and the relevant sector departments. And then in terms of regional projects, one of the biggest challenges is if those projects are not or do not find expressions in the individual country capital plans, you do have a challenge in implementing those. So your TA, you can expand the TA, but then you find that it doesn't actually reach the objectives or there's delays, etc., etc. And then now moving to the PDB level, I think the most important learning I can share is that you always have to put yourself in the client's shoes. So make sure that your processes are streamlined as possible and your operational guidelines are also support the process to fast track applications. And another learning, especially in countries where the ESG or the country, we call them country systems, but in instances where ESG is not well developed, try and incorporate those ESG elements early on as part of the project preparation process. And then, of course, use, as to the extent possible, make use of blended finance and also try and use a cost recovery mechanism so that you're self-sustaining. And I think another lesson is that in instances where you face blockages, try and leverage your partnerships with other organs of state. And then at project level, I'll just like to highlight that there's a saying that says the jockey that you back is just as important as the horse itself. So basically what that is saying is, as you provide project preparation support to different projects, it's important to look at the team that you're supporting, because that can be probably more important than the project itself. Because if you have a good project but the wrong team, it presents a challenge in developing that project and ultimately reaching, say, financial close operations. Maybe next slide. Yes, so the last point I just wanted, before this one, thank you. So the last point I wanted to raise is really a South African case study on how the PDB, namely the Development Bank of Southern Africa, actually supported the South African government to establish a new market and unlock around 22 billion USD in private sector investment. And this was really for the renewable energy. We always use the short version, so now I have to say it in full, but it was for the Renewable Energy Independent Power Producer Procurement Program. We usually refer to it as the REAP program. And since 2011, this program has unlocked 15 gigawatts of renewable energy across 148 projects. So, this was a partnership between the Department of Energy, National Treasury, and the DBSA, as I've mentioned. And really, there's some critical success factors that I thought I should highlight, but really it spoke to a lot of collaboration, cooperation between government and the private sector, and the PDB being DBSA providing that initial technical assistance to then unlock this massive industry, and it's still growing. We've recently introduced the gas program and the battery energy storage program as well. So let me leave it there, and if anyone would like to reach out pertaining to some of the things that I've highlighted, please feel free to do so. I know I rushed quite quickly through the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Metlale. Thank you to all the speakers. I'm always very sorry when we ask a speaker to speak only 4 minutes about the project that he or she is leading or knows about for many years. I think we covered a lot of ground here on the modalities of technical assistance, on the sectors that it can cover, from agriculture to water and sanitation to renewable energy. We mentioned how we can help in the energy transition process, even in the just transitions, how it is connected to national priorities, to investment in SDGs. And without trying to sum it all up, I want to open now the floor, if you all have let's say 10 more minutes to spare, to Q&A, to questions you might have to ask to our speakers, or if you want to share some experience, feel free. You can do it either in the chat or by clicking on going on stage. If you wish to intervene, please feel free to do so. I don't see any questions yet. Maybe we have. Do we?
Hi, can you hear me? By any
Yes,
chance?
yes. Go ahead.
Okay, good. Sorry, my screen's a little bit, I can't actually see the screen properly, but I did have a question, if I may. So my name's Ujala Kadir. I work with the Development Guarantee Group. We provide guarantees, and we also have the Green Guarantee Company as part of our portfolio. So my question, this is really interesting. Thank you so much to all the speakers, just to hear about the breadth and depth of the different capacity building and TA initiatives. Really helpful to see all of this. My question is really related to kind of the coordination across the life cycle of projects and whether you've seen really effective models or examples, because on the call today, I think I've heard a lot about some upstream initiatives that are really helping at the country platform level and at that really early stage of turning NAPs and NDCs and these types of policy instruments into investable, bankable potential pipelines. And then we've heard all the way to the other spectrum of technical assistance that's tied to a fund or tied to an instrument, which is something that we're also doing here at GGC. But what I'm wondering is, how do we actually coordinate and connect all of these different supports along the life cycle of a project? And really, it's a question whether people on the call have seen examples or can point to some examples of really that kind of longer term requirement, because it takes sometimes quite a bit of time to get from an NDC to a financial close and mobilizing capital. So I'll stop there. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the question. Does one of the speakers want to react, answer? I can provide maybe some thoughts, but if you wish to jump in first. So maybe I'll start and then others can jump in. What came out clearly from the study of 2024 is that technical assistance and capacity building are needed, but they need to be specific and tailored to the needs of where the project stands in its life cycle. So that's why in the TA catalog, in the classification, you can choose or indicate to which part of the life cycle of the project your TA is associated with. So not all TA is the same, and it is very different. I think one of the key features that stood out from the discussion today is still the need for a TA on regulatory reforms or the regulatory environment. This came out several times across the different TA or experiences that were mentioned, be it in renewable energy in South Africa, be it in water and sanitation projects. And that's one thing. And I also think that what was also illustrative today is that some TA, although very specific, can catalyze a lot of new lessons for an institution like a PDB. I'm thinking here about the local currency academy. So lending in local currency can be important for a public domestic bank, but as well as for a bilateral or multilateral development bank that wishes to lend in local currency. So I think these illustrates the diversity of technical assistance, and it also shows that it must be directed with a clear vision, with a clear investment plan, and country platforms or national priorities are key here. And in the framing of the investment strategy, it's always important to factor in the skills that are needed, the peer-to-peer exchange that is needed, how reforms can be conducted, and this is where TA can be very helpful. So I hope this answers at least partly your questions. And of course, we can continue if you have more specific, or if you want to more specific questions, or you want to go deeper. We can always continue by email. Do you have other questions? Yeah. So I see one. I'm going to read it out. A major challenge for national development banks is securing affordable funding for climate projects, as their smaller ticket sizes often do not meet the typical minimum lending thresholds of DFIs. I was wondering if there's any guidance on eligibility for TA in securing such funding sources. That's a good question. In the maybe. Does any of this from any of the speakers, do you have a specific do you want to provide an answer on eligibility criteria and accessing funding for climate projects?
That's, if you want, I can try for AFD. Well, actually, at AFD, we don't really have a minimum amount of the funding that we do, either for the loans, for the financial instrument, or for the technical assistance. It will really depend on the capacity and the debt possibility for the bank. But on that, I think one of the challenges that we face actually is really to gather and to mobilize concessional funds and for the technical assistance to find type of project that can be implemented. So there is two main challenges that we face in the technical assistance is really to redirect the financial flows with concessional funds. I don't know if that helps answering the question.
Thank you, Ines. I hope it does. And also, in addition to your answer, I would say that eligibility is key to access TA opportunities. This is also something that we follow very closely, and it is if you go, for example, to the TA catalog of FiCS, you will see in the information provided for each technical of the more than 30 technical assistance offerings that the eligibility criteria are listed. But then I think the best way to figure this out is also interacting directly, and this is also one of the functions of the roles that we want to play together with our partners from GCBC and other partners, is really to intermediate demand and supply for technical assistance. And there are readily available resources that's our take on the subject, and it is too little is used at least by public development banks. And so doing this matching is one of the purposes of this webinar, and it's also more largely speaking one of the objectives of the TA Hub and its TA catalog. So of course this is not the there's another question that I'm going to read out, and maybe if you agree, it can be the last one since we're a bit out of time. So thanks for the interesting presentation. Is it possible to expand a bit on the recommendations developed by GCBC and FiCS on capacity building, especially in the context of shrinking ODA? Are there ways to build capacity that have been identified as particularly impactful? Alex or GCBC colleagues, do you want to jump in? And I will then answer and maybe close the webinar. If not, maybe what I can say to answer this question is that shrinking OD is definitely a problem. I think that several of the experiences shared made the case that concessional finance is key, and that good investment should come with technical assistance, because it can help reinforce, build capacities and reinforce skills to manage a loan, to invest in infrastructure. And so I think one of the, it's not a recommendation, but an observation is that grants and concessional finance are still needed, because they can increase the leverage effect of an investment, as opposed to a loan without technical assistance. And I think this is also, technical assistance is a very concrete example of peer-to-peer, I would say, even egalitarian diplomacy. It's a form of a very concrete, very tangible form of international cooperation, when you share experience, when you develop skills for counterparts and peer professionals. And our experience of all our institutions show that it can deliver, and this is one of the key ways to deliver for climate and sustainable development. But then it has to be embedded in national priorities, in a mandate for a public development bank, and this has to be worked out in detail. But generally speaking, technical assistance is the concrete form that international cooperation takes, and it's also one of the return on it's one of the few items that really facilitates return on investment. So I hope it answered the question. So maybe to finish, so we have reached the end of this webinar. I would like to thank all the speakers for their valuable contributions and the discussions that we've had. A final note to say that FiCS continues to shape the future of the PDB community in terms of technical assistance. We'll have a gathering at COP30 in Belém, where we will host, among many events, a session with the Capacity Building Hub, organized by the UNFCCC and the Paris Committee on Capacity Building. And so we look forward to welcoming you there. And as I mentioned several times, we will maybe collect all the materials that were mentioned and distribute it to the participants of this webinar. So, and please feel free to follow up by email for more details on any of the topics that we mentioned. And for those attending, the FiCS Executive Committee meeting will take place tomorrow. So see you there. And thank you all for your participation, and have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.